Hello.
Hi.
I called Alan because he turned off. So I hope you didn't get offended. He said,
I
no,
was thinking the same thing.
no, but he put his finger, he says, and
Oh,
something happened. He says, he turned it off.
but there's always that background talking. Doesn't it drive him crazy? It drives me crazy.
That's why if I'm doing it from a computer, I can talk to him, but this way I cannot talk to him like I did today. I wouldn't. I
Right.
could send, and if I send him a message, he won't understand what it is.
Oh, okay.
Where are you, in the desert?
Yeah.
Hi,
Oh,
Barbara.
Here's my wife.
you have a suntan.
Yeah, it was very nice the weekend.
It wasn't hot.
It was very hot.
But we like it hot. You know
You
that
like it
movie,
hot.
Some Like It Hot? It's about
Some
us.
Like-
Yeah.
You know, it's been so cold in LA. We had to come here to get warmed up.
Yeah, no, but it was beautiful. The weather's been beautiful lately. Gorgeous, gorgeous. 70s.
Good, good.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we like 80s, 90s.
I know 80s are good. Yeah, and then you sit at the pool, and you have a pool there, right?
of course.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
Right,
That's
right,
where we spend the day.
Yeah, I was in the pool a lot today. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Where
you
are we
heat
holding,
it?
Mario?
Eh?
We're 6.
Chapter 6.
Chapters. Got it.
I don't have my
Yeah.
notebook here with me.
Oh,
Were you? I hate to be the bear. Were you friends with the Torskys?
Oh, no, what happened?
happened?
What happened? The boy?
MS, MS.
Oh,
MS. Oh, my God.
Who's that?
Borek Tversky, his son.
Oh.
Oh, my God.
It's
This
too
is
much.
second son.
It's too
I
much.
know. I would tell.
Too much.
I learned actually Navi with their machutin. His daughter is married to their son. So I've been saying to Hillen for him, but no, there was no progress, no improvement. 10 children.
10.
10 children.
Where are the Twerskis nowadays? Where did they move to?
I don't know. I think it's Lakewood.
Lakewood, yes. They moved to
Lakewood,
Lakewood, yes.
Lakewood. Tragic.
Tragic. I'm gonna see them today. Yeah.
You're gonna because you're gonna pay.
They're in Israel.
They're
Yeah,
in
they'll
Israel.
sit
Yes.
in Shiva.
And my friend Marie Clear, their machutin also flew today. His
You're
daughter's
going-
married.
You're going to Israel, Kalia?
I am in Israel. I've been in
He is
Israel
in
already
Israel.
a month.
Oh, you're in
what
Israel
time
now?
is it now?
I am in Israel, and you know what? That's why I'm not connecting into the shir because it's 6:30 here. So 6:30 in the morning.
You're
Well,
60.
thank you, Mario. He records it, so you're lucky.
Yes. I follow it, but I decide that's it. I'm gonna join.
Good. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's
Boker
beautiful.
tov.
Yes.
Morning. Good
Yes.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I've sent 2 pictures to your Navi WhatsApp. We'll be referring to them tonight. We are starting Perek Vav, Melachim Aleph.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna get into the building of the Beit HaMikdash,
Wow.
Shlomo Melech. By the way, Pasuk Aleph starts off by saying, Vahi b'shmonim shana, ve'arba meot shana,
Right.
l'tzeit b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. It's 480 years. We will go through the cheshbon since Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim. Bashana Revi'it,
Are you in the right book?
Melachim Aleph, Melachim Aleph, Perek Vav. Perek Vav. So we're talking about the fourth year, which according to most, the Radak, we're talking about the fourth year of Shlomo Melech's reign. The Chodesh Ziv,
Again, here.
okay, we are on Melachim Aleph, Perek Vav, Posuk Aleph.
Send a text.
I sent some pictures to WhatsApp. Vahi b'shmonim shana v'arba me'ot shana l'tzeit b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, b'shana revit, the fourth year of Shlomo Melech's reign. B'chodesh Ziv, we'll see what that means. Fu Chodesh Hasheni. In the Jewish calendar, we refer to Chodesh Harishon, which is Nisan. Chodesh Sheni is Iyar. Here, the Navi calls it Chodesh Ziv. Limloch Shlomo Yisrael. Vayiven Abayit Lashem. Now, I want to read to you Divrei Hayomim Beis. Divrei Hayomim is divided into Divrei Hayomim Aleph
Wow, much.
and Divrei Hayomim Beis, just like you have Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Beis. You have Melachim Aleph, you have Melachim Beis. You have the same thing with Divrei Hayomim. So in Divrei Hayomim Beis, Perek Gimel, it says, Vayachel Shlomo livnot et Beit Hashem b'Yushalayim behara Moriah. Shlomo begins to build the house of Hashem. It tells us where? In Jerusalem, on Hara Moriah, Asher Nira David Avihu. That place was shown to David his father. Asher Hechin bimkom David begoren Arnana Yevusi. Remember, David bought this place from Arnana Yevusi. There's a lot more detail in the location. Here, you notice in Melachim, it doesn't really mention the exact place. Here, Chodesh Iyar is called Chodesh Ziv.
Yeah.
We'll see because the fruit trees, Ziva Ilona, the fruit trees are majestic. It gives the name of the month, Chodesh Ziv.
It's Rashi here.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, Radak, earlier in Perek Gimel, told us that at the beginning of this fourth year, when they started building the base of Mikdash, that's when Shlomo married Bas Paro. And if you remember, there was a lot of anger by Hashem because of that. So the connection of the Binyan and the Bas Paro was made. Now, the Gra reminds us how we got to 480 years. So those of you who want to keep track with a pencil, we spent 40 years in the desert. We didn't have to. We could have entered Eretz Yisrael in the second year. We sent them Meraglim, and we cried, and they spent an extra 38 years dying, 15,000 people every year, and they would walk into their graves on Tisha B'Av, and finally in the 40th year, on Tu B'Av, people woke up from their graves and they did not die. That was the secret. That's one of the reasons why we celebrate Tu B'Av. So 40 years in the desert. Then they spent Yud Daled 14 years in Gilgal. 7 years they conquered, and 7 years they spent dividing up. Then 369 years that the Mishkan was in Shiloh. Then 57 years when it was in Nov and Givon. 13 years in Nov, 44 years in Givon. If you add that up, it's 480 years. So the Abarbanel wants to know, why did Shlomo Melech wait 4 years until he started building Beis Hamikdash? Says the Abarbanel, David Aviv natan lo et tavnita bayit. David already there were already blueprints of how it's supposed to look. The various storehouses, the upper chambers, the chedrav apnimimim uveit hakaporet, the tavnit kol hadvarim. Like it says in Divrei Hayomim, Aleph, Perek Chavches, v'gam natan lo hazahav, unechoshet, ve'akesef, ve'abarzel, ve'aetzim, ve'avonim. David HaMelech had already given Shlomo the gold, copper, silver, iron, wood, stones, levinyan, va'avnei shoam v'miluim, the precious stones. Im Kain, asks the Abarbanel, Eze siba hayta kan li'ichur binyan hamikdash. Why did Shlomo wait 4 years? Ev Shalomar dememet lo himtin. Ela dizman chatichat ha'etzim b'Levanon. We learned last week that he had sent messengers to Hiram, the king of Lebanon, to provide craftsmen who were lumberjacks and carpenters, and also stonemasons. He couldn't start the binyan until all of this pre-work was done by the workers. But the Barbanel says there's a secret. Eze sod. Shu misparshim lachitzis mitzrayim shabana shlomas abayis. 480 years from, because in the year 2448, in the creation of the world, the Mishkan was made. And then in the year 2928, which is 480 years later, Shlomo built the Bayis. Then in the year 3408, Bayis Sheni was built, right? Because Bayis Rishon stood for 410 years. And then 70 years they were in Galus before the Bayis was built again. So there was 480 years between the Mishkan and Bayis Rishon, and between Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni. So Shlomo knew this sod, this secret, and he waited 4 years until it was 480 years since the building of the Mishkan. The Rinas Yitzchak, another Mefarish, says the reason was because there had to be peace. Like Shlomo said to Hiram, Mataya data David Avdi, ki lo yachol livnot bayit l'shem Hashem lo kav mipnei milchama. Right? We learned last week that David couldn't do it because he was too busy with, wasn't the issue of that his hands were bloodied. He just didn't have the time. He was too busy fighting wars. He wasn't given the bracha by Hashem that all of his enemies would be quiet. So now, Shlomo Melech, after 4 years, remember, he had some issues. He had to deal with Adoniyahu, he had to deal with Yoav, until he got rid of all of his enemies, etc. It took him this period before he started building. Now, the Yalkut Shimoni is a collection of midrashim that's written post Tanaitic, right? The regular midrashim that we know, Medrash Rabbah, Mechilta, Tanchuma, these are all Tanaitic pieces of literature were written during the time of the Tanoim. You're talking about prior to the year 400 CE. Yalkut Shimoni makes its appearance 800, 900 CE, 1000 CE. It's also Tanaitic literature, all authored by Tanoim. So he says like this. The Abarbanel had said that David had already gathered the gold, the silver, and it gave it to Shlomo to use. But Shlomo on purpose didn't use it. Why? Hatan, Mishum de David bikesh ladav. Amar lefon of Ribono Elolam. David HaMelech already David. So fe'ani b'nevuati, shesof Beit HaMikdash atid licharev. David himself knew that the base of Mikdash was going to be destroyed. V'kol mashi frashti mibate avodot elilim shayiti machriv. Where did David get all this gold, silver, and copper? He destroyed various houses of idol worship. He gathered it. If they used this gold and silver in the building of the Beis HaMikdash, shelo yu avodah salalim oimrim maya David sover echriv bate Elokeinu v'asa beit Elokav ninaru Eloheinu v'gabu nikmosam v'echrivu beis Elohav. Means the Goyim would say, because David destroyed our idol places and used the gold and silver in building the Beis HaMikdash, when the Beis HaMikdash would eventually is going to be destroyed, and David knew this, the Goyim would say, you see, our false gods are taking revenge against the Jewish God for stealing our gold and silver. David didn't want that. He davened that Shlomo shouldn't use it. So Shlomo HaMelech on purpose didn't use this gold and silver that was left over to him by David. That's why it says later on in Perek Zayin, Vatishlam kol hamlacha asher asa Melech Shlomo Beit Hashem. Shlomo finishes all the work. Vayavei Shlomo et kodshei David aviv et hakesef et hazav et hakelim natan be'otzrot Beit Hashem. This gold and silver was parked in a warehouse that belonged to the Beis HaMikdash, but not used as building material. So lefichach hutzrach ezes man lekaved zava kesef acher lebinyan Beis HaMikdash. This gives us another reason why it took some time that Shlomo HaMelech didn't build the Beis HaMikdash right away. Now, let's talk about this Chodesh Ziv. The Jewish people would say Chodesh Harishon, Chodesh Hasheni. Why? Because Chodesh Harishon was Legulas Mitzrayim. We were redeemed in Nisan, the first month, and by always referring to the months as Chodesh Hashlishi, Chodesh Hachamishi, we're all going to always remember the Geula. We're Makayim the mitzvah of HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodoshim, which Nisan is the first month. Now, when the Sforim, the Kisvei HaKodesh that we have that were made in Bavel, like Ezra and Zechariah and Megillas Esther, there we see the introduction of the Persian names, Nisan, Iyar, Adar, right? In Megillas Esther, clearly says Chodesh Adar. So we began using those names to remember the Geula Hashniya, the fact that we were redeemed partially in the time of Ezra, and we came back up and built the Bayis Sheni. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Yud Aleph, Amud Aleph, says Rabbi Yeshua Oimer, Minayin shebenisan noldu avos. How do we know that our avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, were born in the month of Nissan? Shenemar, Vayi b'shmonim shana v'arba me'at shana l'tzei b'nei Yisrael me'et Mitzrayim, b'shana revi'it b'chodesh Ziv. Rashi says Iyar. B'yareach shenoldu bo Ziv t'nei olam. The month that the beautiful people of the world were born. So then we also mentioned before that Ziv refers to the beautiful fruits, right? Because Rav Yudah says, Haiman denafik b'yomi nisan. If you go out in the spring, v'chazi ilni de melavlovu, and you see beautiful blossoming trees. Oimer, baruch shelo chiser me'olamo klum. Blessed is the God that there's nothing missing in his world. Ubarabo briot tovot vilanot tovot, beautiful creatures and beautiful trees, litnaot ben bnei adam. So we have two pshatim why Chodesh Ziv is referred to as Ziv. It goes on the avos because they're the Ziv Tenei Oilam, or about the trees. Now, it's a kasha. It just said that the avos were born in Nisan, not in the second month. So Rashi explains, the avos were already born. Sometimes the spring season extends even into Iyar. The Maral comments on this, that Chodesh Ziv is a Chodesh Shekvar Haya Ziv Ba'olam. The beauty was in the world because the others were already born in Nisan. Nekein Roy Lios Nikra Nisan Ziv, Ki Ziv u Ziv Shel Olam Klemer Shel Olam u Beziv, Uvenisan Noldu V'Loyu Aziv El Achar Leidasam. The beauty of the world was only there once they were born. So Chodesh Iyar is called Ziv. Lefi Shehu Achar Ziv. It's after the time of Ziv, meaning after the time when they were born. That's how the Maral is. Okay.
Ernie,
Yes, Bernie.
the Mayam Lois has a very practical explanation for Ziv. Ziv, he quotes the Maharikra, the Achron, right? Who says Ziv is shining. The sun is usually shining during Iyar, and there has a very practical reason why it was chosen, because that's the time when the plaster would adhere between the stones and a firm foundation would be built for putting the Beis HaMikdash together, rather than during the wet season.
That's nice. That's like the contractors that always work in this period of time as opposed to the wet period of time.
Right.
Very practical. Now, let me read the second pasuk before we learn that. Pasuk Beis.
Amen.
V'habayit asher bana melech Shlomo l'Hashem, shishim ama arko, v'yatzrim rachbo. Was 60 amas long, 20 amas wide, u'shloshim ama komaso, 30 amas high. An amma is about 2 feet. Now I sent you these pictures. I'll use it too. Yeah. So we're talking about this region. Here's the Mizbeach is here outside the Azorah. But the base of meters that we're talking about is, this is going to be 60 amas by 20 amas. And it's divided into the Heichal and 40 amas long, the Heichal, and 20 amas long, the Kodesh Kodashim. Then there's the Ulam. This is a picture of Bayis Sheni. In Bayis Rishon, the Ulam was not extending out on the either side. It was the same. In the Heichal, in the middle, was the incense Mizbeach, the small Mizbeach where they burnt the incense. To the south was the menorah. To the north, the Shulchan where they put the Lechem upon him. Here's the Kodesh Kodashim that we have today in Yerushalayim. It was west. That's why we did the Koisla Maravi. This is east and this is west. Kodesh Kodashim is to the west. So when we daven at the Kosel here, we're facing the Kodesh Kodashim. We're closer to the Kodesh Kodashim by standing here by the Kosel Amaravi. The Kosel is an outer retaining wall that encloses the Har HaBayis. So again, the Heichal is 40, Kodesh Kodashim is 20. That's how we get 60. Now, all of these measurements are internal measurements. We're talking about the airspace. So 30 amas high, it excludes the thickness of the walls. Now, the Kodesh Kodashim was only 20 amas high, not 30. So why does it say here 30? So Rashi, in the later pasuk Chaf of this perek, says the Aliyat shel Beis Kodesh Kodashim nemucha mishel Heichal. The Kodesh Kodashim's ceiling was not as high as the ceiling of the Heichal. Others say that no, it was as high, but it was only covered with gold up until 20 amas high. The 10 amas above that area was covered with precious stones. We also know that the Aron in the Beis HaMikdash didn't take up any place. The measurement given doesn't count the Aron itself. And it's B'nai Saya Omer. It's just like in the Luchos, the engraved letters were suspended in the air. So too, the measurements of the Aron and the Kruvim, like the Kruvim, which were there were Kruvim that Moshe Rabbeinu built, which were there. Then there were Kruvim that Shlomo built, which were sort of winged Kruvim, and they stood tall. And if you look at the measurements of them and where they stood in the Dvir, it's as if they weren't there. So it's like time and space, like at least we talk about time and space. Space didn't exist in a sense for the Aron HaKodesh, this Kli, which was on, L'malam HaTeva. The other thing is the Ulam, this antechamber that I showed you a picture of, was actually 120 amas high. The rest of the bias was, we said, only 30 amas. So they made it look like a lion. You know, when you have a lion that's crouching, and let's say you looked at the lion from the side, the head of the lion is high, and his body goes like that. So the Beis Hamikdash was made to look like that as well. The second picture I sent shows you the cross section, where you see the ulam is high, and the rest of the binyan is low. Now, the Mishkan was the Beis Hamikdash of Shlomo was literally double the Mishkan. We said it's 40 by 20, and the Devir was 20, right? 60 by 20. The Mishkan of Moshe was 30 by 10. Just double that, and you have 60 by 20. We said the Beis Hamikdash was 30 amas high, was 3 times as high as Moshe's Mishkan, which was only 10 amas. The Ulam did not exist in the Mishkan. It only existed in the Beis Hamikdash. There was no need for Shlomo HaMelech to build it exactly like the Mishkan. It says in Sefer Shmos, "Kechol asher ani mareh otcha, ei tavnit hamishkan ve'ei tavnit kol keilah v'chein tasu." And it says in the Gemara in Masechta Shavuos Yud Daled, v'chein tasu l'doros. But that's only involving the kelim. If one of the kelim got missing, you should make the shulchan, the menorah, the kiyors the same way. But the tzuras of the binyan itself didn't have to be like the Mishkan, just the kelim. The Ramban argues with Rashi and says Shlomo didn't have to make the kelim like they made it Mishkan either. Certain things had to be similar. Mizbeach, for example, is 28 by 28, square. Moshe's was an amma by an amma, but it's similar. The ratios stay the same. The Kodesh Kadoshim was square, 20 by 20. In the Beis Hamikdash, in the Mishkan, it was 10 by 10. The Heichal was a rectangle, 40 by 20. And the Mishkan was 10 by 20 by 10. So the ratio stayed the same, even though the absolute number was larger. Now, who is the mitzvah to build the Beis Hamikdash? Who is it on? You notice it says, Habayis asher bono HaMelech Shlomo. So the Radak in Perek Zayin Amud Aleph, Pasuk Aleph says, Iker mitzvahs b'nyan Beis Hamikdash hu mitzvah al HaMelech. That's why here in our Perek, there's an emphasis on what Melech Shlomo did. That Shlomo was Makayim the mitzvah of Binyan Beis Hamikdash, and he dealt with it personally. Now, there's other shitos in Shmuel Beis, Perek Chavdal Pasuk Aleph. The Rambam, the Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Sefer HaChinuch says, "Da mitzvah mutal ala tzibur, lav dafka lamelech." It's a tzibur dikadin. The melech is like the shliach tzibur, right? It is like the shliach tzibur that leads us in Shmona Esrei. That Shmona Esrei is davened by the tzibur. That really the mitzvah is on the tzibur. Pasuk Gimel. Let's see here. The Mutzra Nevi'im explains a little bit better when I talked about that the Aron and the Kruvim don't have a measurement. Eser Amoisha Kruvim Va'aron Omdim Behem. The Aron itself was 10 amas, and the Kruvim. Hayu Kimoa Esrim Shalamala. They were similar to the 20 amas space that was supposed to be from the floor to the ceiling. Ma Esrim Kulan Chalal. Ve'ein Behen Davar. In space, it's empty. Kach Gama Eser. The 10 amas that the Aron and the Kruvim were supposed to fill up, Ki Kulam B'nei Sayu Omdim. So it was as if they weren't there. That's why it says, Lifnei Advir Esrim Ama Koma So, Lomar Shekola Shloshim Amas Koma, Eina Chashuvos. The 30 amas that the Pasuk said it was tall are not considered. Elake Esrim. We really measure 20, not 30, because the 10 are not there. The Misfas Kruvim Amala, Shayipnu Miklum was empty. Ki Esra Kamo Esrim. So it's like 10 go away. Says the Musar Nevi'im further. Hanes hazeh, what do we need this kind of nes? Sheneida sha'Torah ein zkuka l'makom. The Torah doesn't need space. V'lo nomar ki ata she'ein lanu makom menucha. We don't have a place to put the Beis Hamikdash. V'nenu metutolim dinos l'medina. We don't have our own place. We're schlepped from one country to another. We could say, "Ef shalanu lisasik b'Torah." We can't learn the Torah. Just like the Aron didn't measure any space when we measured it, so too we can't claim that we don't have the space to study Torah. The fact that for thousands of years we kept true to the Torah is all miraculous. Pasuk Gimel. Ve'ha'ulam al pnei heichal habayit. The ulam is the antechamber, right? Here is the heichal, but this is the, you walk in through this ulam. Now the ulam was flush. This is Bayis Sheni. In Bayis Rishon, the ulam didn't extend beyond the sides. It's like a guardhouse.
Ernie, whose decision was it to make this added piece? Was it Horja's?
No, this ulam is told to Shlomo. The ulam is there in Bayis Rishon as well.
Oh, so it was.
This was given. The blueprint was given by Shmuel HaNavi to David already when they studied together. It was given by Navi, and we'll discuss why they needed this ulam. The ulam did not appear in the Mishkan. It was a chidush in the Beis Hamikdash. But you cannot have a Beis Hamikdash without it. I'm going to read the Rambam, Hilchos Beis HaBechira. Elu ein advarim shein ikar b'binyan habayis. So our group that we're learning this now, when the Mashiach comes tomorrow or whenever he's
Tomorrow. Tonight.
and they're going to start building the Beis Hamikdash, we're going to know this halacha. What is the minimum requirements that you have to have in order for it to be a halachic binyan Beis Hamikdash? These are the things. Kodesh, the Kodesh Kadoshim. This, I showed you the 60 amas, 40 of the Heichal, and 20 of the Kodesh Kadoshim. You need the separation. Kodesh, where the menorah, Shulchan, and Mizbech HaKtoros were, and the Kodesh Kadoshim. V'yei lifnei HaKodesh mokom echad v'hu hanekra ulam. There has to be this antechamber in front of the Kodesh. Halacha min HaRambam. U'shloshtan nikrain heichal. The Heichal includes all of it. The Ulam, the Heichal, and then Kodesh Kadosh. We can't make a mistake and say, oh, Shlomo did this by himself. Kilo asa shum davar me'atzmo. El hakol haya al yedei nevuah. It says in Divrei Yomim, hakol bichsav miyad Hashem alai hiskil kol melachot tavnit. So Shlomo HaMelech himself, it says in Divrei Yomim, got a nevuah from Hashem. Or, like we said in the first pasuk, the David azavlo tavnit habayit k'mo shekibel mishmul hanavi b'nayot Ramah. That when David HaMelech had a meeting with Shmuel HaNavi, he gave him all of these plans for the way the Ulam should look. Now, the Ralbag, as he always does, gives us an understanding in why we need this. So we have to have a hierarchy. We're going from the Azara, where even Bnei Yisrael could be, to where only the Kohanim could go, and then only the Kohanim could go into the Heichal, and only the Kohen Gadol could go into the Kodesh Kadoshim. So there's a step-by-step elevation in Kedusha between the Ulam, the Heichal, and the Kodesh Kadosh. Pasuk Dalet. Vayas labayit chalonei shkufim atumim. He made special kind of windows. The windows were wide on the inside and very narrow on the outside. That's the special nature of the windows. I'm saying just the opposite. They were pchusim mibachutz, wide on the outside and very narrow on the inside, which are not the normal things of windows for light. You would do that opposite. You would have windows very wide in the inside, because even a small opening would bring tremendous light. So it was very narrow, right? Psuchim rechavim, but they were very wide on the outside, very narrow on the inside. And it follows what it says in the Gemara Menachos, Pei Vav Amud Aleph. Shkufim mibifnim, Tsar shebachalon hayu bifnim was very narrow on the inside. And the wide portion of the window was on the outside. Why? Lahotzi oro le'olam. We want to spread the light that emanates from the base of Mikdash to the world. And because we don't need lola oro anit Syria. Hashem says, I don't need the light from the outside. I need to spread my light to the outside. The Gross learns differently. He says that the windows had doors on them, that you could close them. The Abarbanel says that they were translucent. So you couldn't really see inside, but it let light come in. There was a question, did they have any windows in the Kodesh Kadoshim? So the summary is that there were no windows in the Kodesh Kadoshim, according to most of the Meforshim, because they relied on the Or of the Oron itself, the Or HaTorah. The Kli Yakar brings again a Yalkut Shimoni. Omra Vavin Alevi. Somebody's building a house. He wants windows. You make them very wide inside and narrow on the outside because you just need some light to funnel in. So they can bring in light. They were wide on the outside and very narrow on the inside. Lama, or the light should emanate from the base of Mikdash and go to the world. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ha'or yotzei mi beiti the light leaves my house. The ain't tzarich or I don't need light from the outside. Shema Tomer lama tzarich b'shvil la'ir lanu shenamar v'chui lecha lalos ner tamid she'or l'fnei tadir. Why do I need light inside with a menorah? Omer David or Zerul tzaddik. That light is only for the tzaddik. The Kli Yakar asks, if they wanted to show that a Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't need light, why not close them off completely or don't make windows at all? We have to teach us that the Beis Hamikdash is enlightening the rest of the world. In fact, in many places, the Beis Hamikdash is called Uru Shel Olam, the light of the world. The Maral brings a medrash in Beishis Rabbah, Ha'oru mehecha nivra, mimakam Beis Hamikdash nivra so'ira. Light was originally created, like it says in Yechezkel, V'nei kvod Elokei Yisrael ba miderech hakadim, and ein kvod el Beis Hamikdash. When we talk about the kvod of Hashem, we're talking the Beis Hamikdash. Like it says in Yirmiyah, Kisei Kavod Marom Rishon Mekom Mikdashenu. Harei ki Beis Hamikdash hu ha'or. Ad shemimenu nivra ha'or. V'davar ze yadu ala maskilim. Those that know, they know this. Ki Beis Hamikdash hu nivdal min ha'gashmi. The Beis Hamikdash is not a physical thing. V'chol nivdal u'mityaches la'or. Or is like energy. It's light. It's not something physical. Or eno gashmi klal. Ulefichach Beit Hamikdash oro shel olam. Misham itpashet haor bibriya. From the Beis Hamikdash, the light for creation is disseminated. The Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky and Emes Yaakov says another reason why we had windows. It's called Beit Hamikdash. It's a bias. And the tzura of a bias has windows. Like when we were children and we drew a picture of a house. You did a frame, you made a door, and then you made windows. That's a tzura sabayis. So much so that it says in Brachas, Lamed Aleph, Amad Aleph, Amrav Kia Barabala, Oilam Yispalal Adam Bebayis, Sheyesh Bo Cheloinai. You should never daven in a shul that doesn't have windows. The Beis Yosef brings, right? Al Yispalal Adam Bebayis Sheyesh Bo Cheloinai. So some say it's just that the bayis should have good atmosphere and air coming in. But Rashi over there says, "Shachaloines gormin lo shechavin libo, shkumistaker klape shamayim v'libo nichna." A person looks up, he sees the heavens, and it gives him kavanah to daven to Hashem. So this din that a shul needs windows, we learn it from the Beis Hamikdash.
You want to hear another interpretation?
Please.
The Targum Yonason says chalon doesn't mean window at all, but it can mean sockets. The sockets were there for the pole, which is the shkufim. What is the shkufim? He says it's related to the word mashkof, which means the lintel, the horizontal beam that held up the roof. So that the inside of the Beis Hamikdash was entirely sealed with no light coming in or going out. There were no windows at all. That this was the beam that went across to support the roof. That's shkufim, and chalon he interprets as sockets, the sockets into which the ends of the beam fit.
Right.
While on the outside of the Beis Hamikdash, it was completely sealed. Atufim. So there was no evidence, it didn't extend outside of the walls of the Beis Hamikdash.
Okay.
Just another interpretation.
Another interpretation. It seems like I would say the majority of the Meforshim do say that there were windows, but they were constructed in a way differently than we construct our windows.
Right.
Pasuk Hey. Vayiven al kirabayis, yatzia saviv. And around the walls, they made, let's call them cells. Et kirat abayit saviv la'echel v'ladvir v'yatz laot saviv. Look at the picture on page 53 of the Art Scroll Rubin edition. And you see a picture of what these were like storage spaces around the base of Migdash, either for people. Machlokas, the way most of the Meforshim lose that these were like rooms, and along the walls on the outside, only on the south, west, and north, but not on the east. And this was something, of course, the Mishkan didn't have. And it was a Mokom Ishtamshus. People gathered there, or they stored things there.
But they were cubby holes. It says cubby,
But large, but they were large.
they were large.
They were large. And we'll see the measurement soon. Kleoper says they weren't used and people didn't gather there. It was like a buffer that people shouldn't come close to the walls of the Beis Hamikdash and touch them because of Tumah v'Tahara, because of Kedusha. Okay? But most hold that they were used as a place. Pasuk Vav, and Hayatzia Tachtona, Chamesh Bama Rachba, they were 5 amos wide. Then Vatichona, the second story, Sheish Bama Rachba, was 6 amos wide. Vashlish is the top story, Sheva Ba'amas Rachba, were 7 amos wide. And I sent you the second picture where you see like a cross section, where you see the cell, the higher cell, the third cell extends further than the second one, the middle one. And the first one is the narrowest one, exactly like the pictures here. So they weren't one on top of the other exactly. And they stayed away from the walls of the Beis Hamikdash itself. Now, they were 5 and 5 and 5. It's 15 amos high. The whole thing was 30. So the windows were above there. It was 15 amos between the top of these structures to the roof. That's where they placed the windows. Because there's no wall, there's no space for the windows with these things in the way. So that's how we have to view the structure. Pasuk Zion. Ve'abayis bi'ibnato heaven shlema masanivna. They were built with solid, large stones. Umakavot v'garzen kli barzel lo nishma b'bayit bi'ibnato. Nobody ever heard metal implements shaping or dealing with these stones. It wasn't heard. Now, this pasuk somehow doesn't fit here. This should have been maybe either in the beginning or the end, because it's giving a general rule of how they built. But because they talked about these cells being away from the walls, so it's describing, because the stones that were used in the walls were shalem. There were no holes in it. They were completely shalem. They were cut to measure. How did they cut them if you couldn't use a metal implement? So the Gemara in Sota, famous Gemara, Sota Mem Ches Amud Beis, Ton Rabbanan Shamir, Shebo Bona Shlam. Shamir was a like a snail or some kind of worm that excreted some kind of acid, and it was able to cut these stones.
For the cutting, I have here also that the cutting of the stones, there were tools that were used, but it was before they were brought to the Beit HaMikdash.
So this is a machlokes in the Gemara between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Rabbi Yehuda says they use the shamir. Rabbi Nechemia, like Barbara says you can't say it because it says later on in Melachim Aleph Perek Zayin, Kol Eila Avanim Yikarot Kimidot Gazit Migorot B'Magreb Mibaitu Michutz. They were cut. So how could we say in this pasuk that we didn't hear metal implements? In the stone quarry, away from where the Beis Hamikdash was, they could use metal implements, but then they brought them and they sort of assembled them in the Beis Hamikdash, and they weren't used on the Beis Hamikdash site itself. That's how Rav Nechemia lives. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they just used the shamir at all. Now, what is this issue with steel? Why can't we use steel? So first of all, it says in Shmos, "Mizbech avanim taseli, lo tivneh ten gazi." Do not use metal when you make the stones for the mizbech. Ki charbecha heinafta aleh v'tachal aleh. The Rambam gives the reason that because you're going to make some kind of picture using the metal implement, and you're not allowed to make a tzura. The Ramban disagrees. He says cherev is kocho shel Esav. Yitzchak told Esav al charbecha tichya, you will live by the sword. Esav is hated by Hashem. It says in Malachi, there's Esav saneti. I hate Esav. So the concept of staying away from Barza, particularly by the Mizbeach, is understandable. Cherev is machri of the world. So when it comes to the Mizbeach, which is meant to unite the world, we have to stay, it has to be shalom. So there's no mention of Barzel. We do mention Zahav, Kesef, Nechoshet when we build the Mishkan, but not Barzel. You know that there's a din. The Beis Yosef in Orach Chaim Kuf Pei says, Mechasin Sakin B'Shas Birchas Hamazon. Al Shem Lo Sanif Alehem Barzel. That during benching we cover the knife because our shulchan is like a mizbeach.
Yeah.
Never even heard of that.
And that's why some people keep the knife covered as well. You know, when you make the brachas on the lechem, but the Beis Yosef brings it about birchas hamazon. Okay, I'm gonna stop here. I think it's a good introduction to this whole sugya of Binyan Beis Hamikdash. There's a lot more.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So-
Thank you.
Comments, I wrote
Thank
questions.
you very much.
Good stuff.
Amazing.
Right,
amazing.
Have a good week,
I just
everybody.
have just one
Oh.
question.
Yes.
Shmuel gave instructions to David HaMelech. Did he not? So he did not know that David would not build a Beit HaMikdash, or he did know, but he wanted him to feel, because his intentions were to build, he wanted to do it so badly. So he wanted to give him the zchut of giving him
Yes.
the instructions.
Yes, and I believe Shmuel also knew that David was not going to do it, that it was going to go to his son as well. Although a different Navi told either Nosson or Navi gave that nevuah to David. Whether Shmuel knew or not, it's a good question. But David was occupied all his life in thinking about building the Beis Hamikdash, and so Shmuel revealed to him through nevuah, and David shared that with Shlomo, his son.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Shkoyach, honey.